The motivational background music?
You know what? They don't, but I guarantee that they. I can play it on Spotify real quick.
We'll play it then. And take us full screen before we go to Blackjack.
Obviously, we all know the elephant in the room. The big lawsuit, and one of the big foundations of that lawsuit, which, by the way, has been dismissed. Let's not forget that. And one of the foundations of that lawsuit was over artificial streaming and artificial botting on Spotify. Oops, I mean Spotify.
I can play it on Spotify real quick.
And do I mind the jabs at Spotify, which continues to be mired in controversy? Obviously, Daniel Ek has now stepped down after his, controversial investments, some of the other situations and allegations and things that have been going on there behind the scenes. Not to mention the fact they made $1.14 billion in net profits, and they still continue to pay their artists 0.00001 of every stream that we make, but I digress. And like I said originally with that lawsuit, I thought there were some interesting principles there. I thought there were some interesting points that were worth exploring that Drake was pointing out. Unfortunately, it came within the context of losing a rap battle and turning around and suing over said rap battle just because you didn't like the outcome, which for me really just muddied the waters because I never disagreed with Drake going after UMG. I just always disagreed with the context of why he was doing it and the timing of said situation. Kendrick Lamar kicked your ass. Get over it. It happens. And if Drake wanted to go after his employers, he could have waited. He could have leveraged a different lawsuit against UMG because Drake spent years being the poster child, being the golden boy of UMG, benefiting from said system. If there's anyone who's going to know where to look, where to find where some of the skeletons and bodies are buried, it's probably Drake. But instead, we've had all these just ridiculous side quests, attacking what an artist can and can't say, attacking the rules of engagement within a rap battle, and just one of the foundations of hip hop. But I digress. Back to this whole topic of botting. You guys remember when I covered the Young Thug leaks? I mean, he even bragged about and talked about how he got Gunna to have the #1 album over top of The Weeknd simply by paying for it. And that's one person with his resources, with his assets. Think about what a multinational corporation, the power of a UMG, the power of a major music label, all of the contacts, all of the soft power that they have, what they are capable of. And if you think the music industry isn't shady, you've been living under a fucking rock. Look at the recent 21 Savage album. Again, I know we've had these side quests of F the streets. It's turned into an interesting marketing campaign, but it also feels like a little bit of coping from 21 and late album promotion when he had 0 rollouts, 0 music videos, 0 singles to build this up. It looked like it wasn't going to perform well. It looked like it was flopping. And then overnight, all of a sudden, 40,000 units just got moved like that. Which, given the fact that Drake is on said album, giving the tie-ins of 21 Savage and Drake, we can all see the irony there in regards to the botting allegations. And this is what always gets me with Drake. Like, again, I think that there's merit. I think that there's positive avenues to take. I think there's using your platform for good. I think there is a huge value in exposing this, in continuing to shit on the Spotifys, and continuing to shit on the current system and the current infrastructure, because it's definitely... there's a lack of transparency. And us as consumers, if we can't trust the numbers, and then you have all of these sites, all of these influencers, everyone only talking about the numbers, where does that leave us? It just creates a bad taste in the mouth of the listener. It creates a distrust between what artists are doing and what listeners are consuming and what listeners trust. And honestly, it's kind of silly of the labels too, because if listeners don't trust the numbers, then who gives a fuck about the charts? It labels whole value of how they measure and quantify their artists. It comes from the charts. It comes from the statistics. So if stats don't matter, then where is the real world value of what an artist is actually doing, how they are performing, and where is their true fan base? I feel like as we continue to progress with AI, as we continue to progress with social media and this online world, there's also sort of this counter movement of what goes on in the real world. And there's a value now placed once more on more of those human connections, on those real world interactions. And for me, one of the greatest litmus tests in today's world of artists and just online inflation and propaganda is how many people come out to shows. How many people do you put in a seat at a show? Who is willing to travel? Who is willing to pay money to come listen to you, to come support you? And if you really want to see how an artist is doing, if you really want to see how successful an artist is, go to one of their shows. Go see how many people turn up to listen to that artist that are truly putting their money behind that artist. That's not influenced by a label. That's not influenced by botting. That's not influenced by the numbers and statistics. One thing I think will be very, very interesting is once Drake drops his Iceman album, what happens with the metrics then? On one hand, does UMG continue to market, continue to push, continue to support an artist who has directly sued them? On another, as Drake continues to go on about bots, about artificial streaming, that's going to put his own album numbers under a further microscope. There's going to be more people looking out for signs. If there's any temptation that, hey, this album is underperforming, maybe I should boost it in a certain way, people are going to be on top of that because you're already witnessing that happen with the 21 Savage album. I mean, Drake is currently being attacked. He's coming under the microscope. They're both being accused of botting, of artificial numbers. So what do you think happens when Drake's actual project releases? And look, I know 2025 is ending. 2026 doesn't have too much promise when it comes to AI slop, when it comes to this artificial streaming, when it comes to the polarity within hip-hop, within stan bases arguing with each other. But I just want to remind you guys, it's not all doom and gloom. We had an amazing Clips album this year. We had an amazing JID album. We had an amazing Nas album. I just spent 2 hours breaking down. We've had so many dope drops and dope releases. Hip-hop has been well-fed and will continue to be well-fed as we move forward. And Drake will make sure that he is a part of the 2026 conversation. And look, no matter how you feel about the beef, no matter how you feel about that battle, we're in an era where rap battles don't end careers. It's not like Drake has gone away. It's not like his career is over. He continues to drop music. He continues to have a strong fan base who will listen to him. But I can't help but feel that all these little moments on these live streams with these different influencers, all these sort of like bitter, just throwaway jokes, these passive aggressive comments, now going after the Spotifys, now going after the streaming and the bots. I can't help but feel like there's also an awareness from Drake that his numbers aren't necessarily the same as what they once were. That his support system has been taken away from him. That he's no longer the poster child. He's not directly benefiting from the UMG influence, from those UMG deals and situations. And maybe starting to breadcrumb, starting to drop about artificial streaming, about botting, about the situations. It just helps to justify if and when Iceman drops, there's an underperformance. Because then he can turn around and point at the institution. Then he can point it at the machine and frame it and set up the narrative in a way where it's him against the institution, him going against UMG, him going against the Spotifys, and they're doing everything they can to limit him in his reach, which ironically is probably true. But at the end of the day, this is a situation that he created himself by alienating himself from UMG, by alienating himself from the Spotifys of the world, by alienating himself from the system that is currently, from how music works. You know, he's also ironically crippling himself. And when I mention real world numbers, when I mention real world shows, you know, we're also going to see the true power of Drake. In the years to come, we're going to see the true impact that Drake now has. He does have a strong fan base, but we're going to start witnessing how real and how measurable that fan base is as you start to break away from these chart-topping numbers, as you start to break away from these metrics and these record books that signify success. But anyways, I thought that was an interesting video for today. Obviously, I'm a little bit under the weather. Thank you guys for your patience, for dealing with me. But I thought it was a really just interesting pivot point, an interesting talking point, because artificial streaming, the botting, is a huge conversation within music right now. The transparency of it all, how it impacts us, how it affects us as a listener, and really how it impacts the future of music. So if you're here at the end, do me a huge favor, support the channel directly, subscribe, notifications on. It all helps. It all goes a long way. Stay safe, stay positive. Comment down below any other topics you want to see me cover, anything else you want to see me break down or discuss. I try to read as many comments as I can. Leave it all down there. All right, everybody, stay safe, stay positive. Take care of this, take care of this. You know, I'll catch you again.
They're gonna be weird about it? Okay. Do you still want to take it though?
Also, like, I have like such a good thing going. Just,
What do you
like,
mean?
Career-wise and stuff.
You do?